We recently did an investigation on the night of the new moon at what is now known as Helens Bridge in Asheville, North Carolina. This stagecoach bridge was built in either 1907 or 1909, depending on the source. At the time, it was called Zealandia's Bridge because of the Zealandia estate John Brown built. This carriage bridge was built from wood and quarry stone. Since then, this beautiful bridge has undergone a name change of sorts. It is more commonly known now as Helens Bridge.
Here we are at Helens Bridge. Used to be Zealandia's Bridge. I may not be pronouncing that correctly.
Though there was debate in 1998 of tearing down the bridge, thankfully that never came to pass. After a bit of investigation, it was decided to restore this historic landmark, and in 1999, Zealandia's Bridge was restored.
You may be wondering why this bridge has two names.
The reason this beautiful bridge got a name change of sorts is for a devastating reason. A Lady in Whitetail begins. There are several variations of the legend, but they all revolve around a woman named Helen who lost her daughter.
There are 5 legends surrounding Helen and Helens Bridge. Legend 1 goes, Helen was working in the Zealandia mansion's kitchen when a fire broke out down the hall. Her daughter was reading in the library. The fire killed her young daughter, and unconsolable by grief, Helen hung herself from the Zealandia Bridge. Legend 2 goes, Helen's daughter was at Zealandia playing with Philip's daughter, whose daughter is up for speculation, but a fire broke out, killing Helen's daughter, and when she went to retrieve her daughter at day's end, she found out the fire had killed her daughter. She was so inconsolable by grief, once again, went to the bridge and hung herself. Legend 3 goes, Helen lived in a house up around Zealandia Mansion, and one evening she was cooking dinner and the house caught fire. She went to get her daughter and passed out due to smoke. Firemen were able to pull her and her daughter out of the house, but was only able to resuscitate Helen. When Helen came to and realized the fire had killed her daughter, she was inconsolable by grief and hung herself from the bridge. While we were in Asheville, we spoke to a local, and he told us a local legend about Helen, which brings us to legend 4. Helen had a mental health issue, and one day she had a complete mental break, killing her own daughter. When she came out of it, she had no memory of doing the act, and once again she was inconsolable by grief, ran to the bridge, and hung herself.
Legend 5 is a little bit different. Helen is said to have lived at Zealandia Mansion, and she was having an affair with a man, and he ended up knocking her up. Helen went to confront this mystery man, and he rejected her and the unborn child. Helen was so embarrassed and distraught. She didn't want to live her life in shame, being an unmarried woman with a child. So she chose to end her life and the unborn child's life by hanging herself from the bridge.
Interestingly enough, there doesn't appear to be any evidence of a Helen living around the area, nor of any Helen hanging herself from Zealandia Helens Bridge. So where did the legend actually come from? No one seems to know. There have been reports of people seeing Helen wearing a long white gown, asking where her daughter is, of car trouble while driving under the bridge, and even having car trouble days later. Some claim they see the ghost of Helen hanging from the bridge, and some even say they've been physically touched and scratched. Some believe there is more than just Helen at the bridge, less benevolent entities lurking in the shadows. It is said if you go to the bridge at night and say Helen's name 3 times, then she will appear. With there being reports of car trouble if you drive under the bridge, of course we had to drive under the bridge. The only light is at each end of the road. Right at the bridge is completely pitch black dark, and I can definitely see why people would imagine there are dark entities lurking in the shadows. Reading in at 64.2, right in the center. No EMF to report. It is definitely a quiet night. Helen, 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 would you like to come talk with us? We are here. We are listening. Helen, we have heard numerous versions of your story. If you would like to come talk to us. No temperature drops.
Zealandia's Bridge, known now as Helens Bridge, and all of its paranormal glory make for a really good story to bring people into Asheville, but based on our visit, we believe that's all it is. It's a really good story. However, don't let that stop you from visiting that historic landmark. I mean, the bridge is beautiful. You take a step back in time. Keep in mind, if you do visit, the road going under the bridge is uber freaking busy and you cannot see both ends very well. The visibility is very limited, so stay aware, stay safe. If you go at nighttime, it was a little less busy, but not by much, so stay aware. And be sure to check out my companion blog linked in the description.